This is file number 1 of the 13 files containing the digital audio version of Your Future Care consultation document. Information from the Northern, Eastern and Western Devon Clinical Commissioning Group concerning the consultation period, which runs from the 7th of October 2016 to the 6th of January 2017. To contact us, telephone 01392 267 642. Email d-ccg.yourfuturecare@nhs.net or write to Free Post Your Future Care. No stamp is required. Your Future Care must be in uppercase letters. This is an index explaining how the audio files are arranged and what they contain, as follows. File number 2 contains the executive summary. File number 3 contains the foreword. File number 4 contains the introduction from the locality chairs. File number 5 contains Section 1, your local NHS. File number 6 contains Section 2, the current challenges facing the local NHS. File number 7 contains Section 3, what we've improved so far. File number 8 contains Section 4, what we want to do next, your future care. File number 9 contains Section 5, what service changes are needed. File number 10 contains Section 6, safe and effective implementation. File number 11 contains Section 7, the next steps. File number 12 contains Section 8, your views. Finally, file number 13 contains Section 9, a glossary. That completes this index. Executive Summary, explaining what this document is for. Northern, Eastern and Western Devon Clinical Commissioning Group, referred to as New Devon CCG, is accountable for the commissioning of healthcare services to meet the needs of the population of about 900,000 people in the northern, eastern and western parts of Devon, named localities in this document. We are responsible for delivering care which meets the needs of all residents, and for doing so in a way that makes best use of taxpayer funding. New Devon isn't responsible for South Devon and Torbay, which has its own CCG. This document sets out proposals to improve your future care in northern, eastern and western Devon by providing more care in people's homes and avoiding hospital admissions where possible. We want to implement a consistent model of community services across New Devon, one which is based on the principles and priorities identified in earlier engagement and consultation with the public and clinicians. This previous consultation led the CCG to develop 6 strategic principles to guide the commissioning intentions for community services in future. They are that our community services should do the following: help people to stay well, integrate care, personalize support, coordinate pathways, think carer, think family, and use home as the first choice. Doctors, nurses, therapists and social care professionals from across our health and social care system have worked together to develop proposals to design a model of care which meets all these principles. To achieve this, we need to shift our resources and focus from hospital beds to the care surrounding our patients in their own homes. This consultation is therefore about how we decide the location of fewer community hospital inpatient beds in Eastern Devon, whilst giving people the reassurance as to the improved care they can expect instead in their own homes. Local health and social care organisations are facing a financial shortfall in 2015-2016 of £122 million, representing 4% of funding, rising to £384 million or 14% of funding in 2021 if nothing changes. These proposals have been expressed as 4 options, which we summarise now. They're explained in full in Section 5. So in addition to the consistent and enhanced provision of community health and social care delivered in people's homes, the services will be supported by consolidating community inpatient beds in the following possible configurations, subject to consultation. Option A has 32 beds at Tiverton, 24 at Seaton and 16 at Exmouth. Option B has 32 beds at Tiverton, 24 at Sidmouth and 16 at Exmouth. Option C has 32 beds at Tiverton, 24 at Seaton and 16 at Exeter. Option D has 32 beds at Tiverton, 24 at Sidmouth and 16 at Exeter. The preferred option is option A, as this combination results in the smallest changes in travel time and has the greatest whole system impact. Honiton Hospital and Oakhampton Hospital don't appear in any of the shortlisted options. Subject to consultation, the proposal would mean that there would be no inpatient beds on either of these sites, and the new model of care would be implemented. The consultation will run over 13 weeks, from the 7th of October 2016 to the 6th of January 2017. If you'd like additional response forms, please contact us. We're asking for your views on whether you think the proposed options will deliver the model of integrated care described here, and on the best locations for community beds in Eastern Devon. This document has been widely distributed. If you'd like more information, including the technical pre-consultation business case, you can find it on our website. Go to new-devon.nhs.uk/about-us/your-future-care/102019. You can also order a copy in the format of your choice. Please study this consultation document all the way through. Then answer the questions we've asked using the response form. You can fill in your answers on the printed response form and post it to our free post address. Or you can fill in an electronic version of the response form online at new-devon.nhs.uk/about-us/your-future-care/102019. Note, we must receive your response form by no later than the 6th of January 2017. To contact us, telephone 01392 267 642. You can email d-ccg.yourfuturecare@nhs.net or write to Free Post Your Future Care. No stamp is required. If you're writing to Free Post Your Future Care, you must write capital F, then lowercase for Free Post, then write Your Future Care, all in capital letters. It must be written exactly as described here, including capital letters where indicated. Remember, you don't need to use a stamp. Thank you for your interest in this important consultation. If you have any complaints about the consultation, please write to the Patient Advice and Complaints Team, NHS Northern, Eastern and Western Devon Clinical Commissioning Group, Free Post EX184, County Hall, Topsham Road, Exeter, EX2 4QL. Telephone 01392 267 665 or 0300 123 1672. For a callback, send us a text to 077897 41099 or email pals.devon@nhs.net or complaintsdevon@nhs.net. Forward from Angela Pedder, OBE, Lead Chief Executive in Northern, Eastern and Western Devon, and Dame Ruth Carnell, Independent Chair of the Success Regime, who write, "The changes we propose in this document will prompt difficult decision and debate. Put simply, we cannot carry on as we are. The services we have currently in Devon cannot be sustained, and that's not only about money. We must take action now and implement a program of change to secure a health and care system capable of meeting the changing needs of our population. The problem is ours, must be addressed, and a solution found, no matter how difficult that might be. This consultation focuses on the need to create services in our communities which are fully joined up to support individual patients, regardless of whether they live in towns or in isolated rural settings. Services which meet needs and which are effective at promoting the independence and health and well-being of our patients. We call this a new model of care. But in fact, it's a model which already works in parts of Devon, but not yet across the whole county for everyone. The changes proposed here are the first part of a wider programme of change that will be necessary to secure a clinically sound and financially sustainable health and care system for Devon. We'll be discussing the whole programme over coming months. Everyone living in northern, eastern and western Devon should be able to access great care. There are examples of excellent practice in many areas, but none are universal. The reality of the situation we face is that we do not currently provide an equitable service to people across all our communities. Many of our most vulnerable groups and populations receive lower levels of support. Staff work hard to deliver care, many working additional hours to sustain services. Our population is aging, and our staff are also getting older. Staff upon whom we've relied for many years are approaching retirement age, and we're experiencing increasing difficulty in recruiting staff to replace them. This increases our reliance on temporary and agency staff, which in turn impacts on the quality and continuity of services we can offer. It also increases the cost of our services. All of these factors contribute to the growing problems we're experiencing. We have to find a way to maximize the care we can provide, making the best use of our scarce resources and creating attractive employment opportunities that people will want to take. During 2014, New Devon CCG began an extensive programme of discussion and engagement with people across Devon, seeking their views on what was important to them in the design of healthcare services. Clear messages emerged. People wanted joined-up care, which supported and promoted their independence and was provided as locally as possible. They could describe the frustration and waste that resulted from different parts of the health and social care system operating in silos, and the impact of this on their care. At times when people are at their most vulnerable and most in need of support, our current system requires them to navigate their way through the multiple boundaries that exist between services. Our GPs and other clinical staff also describe similar difficulties. This results in delays, multiple assessments, and frequently the only care intervention available is an emergency referral to a hospital due to the lack of a more appropriate, easily accessible alternative service. This view is supported by the findings of an audit published in October last year, which identified over 600 people being cared for in a hospital bed who didn't need to be there, but who required a package of support to enable them to return home. The support required wasn't available because it was tied up in staffing the very beds people didn't need to be in. Indeed, if these resources were not tied up in supporting bed-based services, some people may not have needed to be admitted to hospital in the first place. Being in a hospital bed for longer than necessary causes significant loss of capability. In the elderly, this can mean the end of living independently in their own home. It isn't safe, and it's not effective care to be in hospital unnecessarily, and it can be profoundly disabling. The changes proposed in this document respond to the description of care members of the public and our clinical and care staff have said they want to have. To sustainably deliver the new service, we need to change the current model. These proposals have been developed to help build community resilience across northern, eastern and western Devon, and provide a platform capable of supporting resilient, healthy and economically active communities. They are a first and crucial step in a bigger picture of change. This work will support the next phase as we develop plans to ensure our acute and specialist services are clinically and financially sustainable. We expect further changes will be important, and where necessary and appropriate, we'll consult on these. The health service won't be able to do this alone, and will work in partnership with our local authority, voluntary and charitable sector partners who have contributed to the development of the model of care we describe in this document. We look forward to hearing your feedback to this consultation. Thank you in advance for your contributions. Introduction from the locality chairs, who are Dr. Tim Burke, Dr. Paul Hardy, Dr. David Jenner, and Dr. John Wormersley. They write, "As local GPs, we are uniquely and fortunately placed to understand the NHS, the great things it does, and its tireless efforts to support people to remain healthy, as well as treat them when unwell. But being on the front line, we also see the challenges, the lack of joined-up services, and how this can impact on the lives of those in our care. This consultation explains proposed changes in how people across northern, eastern and western Devon are cared for. The changes are needed to unlock resources to deliver improved care and to contribute to creating a financially and clinically sustainable health service in Devon. In many cases, the care provided by NHS staff in our area is among the best in the country, often in facilities supported by investment from local communities and leagues of friends. But we also regularly see patients who should have received better care. We know we can do more to prevent unnecessary hospital admissions and support a faster return home for our patients. Patients certainly deserve better. Too many people are currently in hospitals when they don't need to be there. This at a time when growing evidence suggests that a length of stay in hospital over 10 days can cause some aspects of people's health to deteriorate, particularly in relation to muscle strength, with the risk of loss of mobility leading to increased falls, loss of confidence and independence, and so advancing frailty. According to the Care Quality Commission report called Community Health Inpatient Services, published in September 2014, the average length of stay in our community hospitals is over 23 days, and so we risk causing avoidable harm to patients. This is powerful motivation for us to improve the care we commission. We know that 40% of our community hospital inpatients never get back to their own home. A report by the Alzheimer's Society, published in 2009, based on the experience of nurses, relatives and carers, said the longer people living with dementia, in particular, were in hospital, the worse the effect on their systems, with discharge to a care home or other place of institutional care more likely, and the potential for greater use of antipsychotic drugs. So, when patients do return home after a spell in hospital, they often find their confidence and independence have reduced. Even when they return home, if there are too few services in the community, patients can soon find themselves back in hospital again, deteriorating further in what can all too often become a downward spiral. Meanwhile, a study by the University of Birmingham into the contribution of older people to understanding and preventing avoidable hospital admissions has found that whilst there is evidence of good initiatives to try and divert older people from hospital, the ways into these services are sometimes complicated for older people and professionals alike. In Who Knows Best, Older People's Contribution to Understanding and Preventing Avoidable Hospital Admissions, published by the University of Birmingham in September 2016, health staff surveyed felt that hospital admission was more likely to be avoided if older people had early access to specialist staff who understood the complexity of the health and social problems which older people may experience. The truth is that there are too few alternatives to bed-based care in the community, and it's this we must change. To do this, we need to reduce the number of hospital beds in Eastern Devon. There is a growing and compelling body of evidence that the solution lies in developing community services outside hospital, which in turn reduces the numbers of people unnecessarily admitted to a hospital. This consultation proposes putting in place the right community services for people so that unless there is a clinical need, they don't find themselves in a hospital. The model will enable us to personalise care and preempt health crises through proactive care planning and targeted intervention to those most at risk. It will be a more active, rapid but comprehensive multidisciplinary service that gets patients back to the familiarity of their homes and families as soon as possible. The model detailed here will also put us on a more sustainable financial footing. There is a real imperative, then, to both improve the care of the most vulnerable in our communities and improve the financial stability of the NHS locally. If we are to really care for the next generations of elderly people, the newly retired and even those now in middle age, if we are to really create a local healthcare system which can sustain support to the health needs of the population we're to have in the future, then we must invest in and redesign primary and community care. Throughout our careers as GPs, we have sought to improve the lives of the people we care for. We firmly believe that the model set out here will enable us to provide better care that patients deserve right across northern, eastern and western Devon. Section 1. Your local NHS. NHS New Devon CCG commissions healthcare for almost 900,000 people in the northern, eastern and western localities of Devon. The 3 localities were developed to reflect the hospital that patients are predominantly referred to: Royal Devon and Exeter, North Devon District Hospital and Derriford Hospital in Plymouth. In recent years, Oakhampton services were run by North Devon Healthcare Trust, as they ran all community services in the eastern locality until the 1st of October 2016. The eastern locality of Devon refers to East Devon, Exeter, Mid Devon and parts of West Devon, including Oakhampton. There are many local NHS providers of healthcare, including independent and voluntary sector organisations, GPs, hospitals, community services and mental health services. These services see many people, with 5.5 million GP appointments a year across New Devon, 838,000 contacts with community staff, and 190,000 people attending one of our 3 A&E departments. Health services work closely with social care, the voluntary sector, patients and the public to provide the best possible healthcare for local people. This is illustrated by a map in the hard copy of the information for which sighted assistance may be required. It shows major health facilities spread across New Devon. The northern locality has a population of 165,790 people. It includes Ilfracombe, Barnstaple, South Molton, Bideford, Torrington and Holsworthy. The eastern locality has a population of 389,370. It includes Tiverton, Crediton, Honiton, Axminster, Ottery St Mary, Seaton, Sidmouth, Budley Salterton, Whipton, Exmouth, Exeter, Morton Hampstead and Oakhampton. The western locality has a population of 352,460. It includes Tavistock, Plymouth, Mount Gould and Kingsbridge. Section 2. The current challenges facing the local NHS. The challenge of providing consistent, high-quality, affordable healthcare in New Devon has become increasingly difficult. This is because the ways in which we provide care for people are becoming increasingly outdated, despite the efforts of local clinicians and staff. We haven't done enough to modernise our services using the rapid advances in health and care. Our services aren't set up in a way to enable them to increase quickly to meet the needs of the growing population of elderly and those with increasingly more complex needs. People in New Devon are living longer, which is a good thing, but this means more people have more complex care needs that require support from health and social care services. Local health and social care organisations face a financial shortfall of £122 million in 2015-2016. This can't continue, even after adjusting for the size, age and social factors of the area. It's one of the largest overspends anywhere in the country. The funding allocations to the NHS up to 2020-2021 are set, and additional funding won't be made available. The Case for Change, published in February 2016, highlighted key aspects of the need for change in Devon overall. There are 280,000 local people living with one or more long-term conditions, such as asthma, diabetes, hypertension, cancer, and mental illness. More than 1 in 5 people in New Devon are over the age of 65, higher than the national average. It will be almost 1 in 4 by 2021. A local study found that more than 600 people in local hospital beds could go home with the right support. There isn't the right support for people who are frail, elderly, or have long-term conditions to stay well and independent. In many cases, they end up in hospital because of a lack of alternatives. We forecast there will be 37,000 more emergency admissions to local hospitals over the next 5 years, an increase of more than 30%. People with mental health conditions don't have access to the level of support they need, which impacts on their general health and well-being. If we do nothing over the next 5 years to change services, we will face an overspend of £400 million. We also have difficulties with recruiting and keeping staff at all levels, and like people living in our communities, our staff are getting older, with many expected to retire in the next 10 years. We need to make sure that we use our staff, our greatest assets, as efficiently as possible. The case for change is particularly compelling in relation to how we use hospital beds. People have told us that when they're ill, they would prefer to be at home and stay at home wherever possible with appropriate support. Up to half of patients in community beds and over a third of those in acute beds are medically fit to leave hospital, but require some support to go home. Every day a patient stays in hospital risks causing harm, as muscle strength can be reduced by up to 5% per day, threatening their ability to return to independent life and reducing their confidence to remain independent. Stays in hospital can expose patients to the threat of hospital-acquired infection and other complications. The key reasons preventing patients from returning home have nothing to do with medical care, but include needing some short-term support with washing or preparing meals, medications or dressing changes, physiotherapy, or needing additional equipment to be safe at home, such as rails or walking aids. The cost of a hospital stay is £200 to £300 per day, which is money wasted if people are having to stay in beds longer than clinically needed. The money lost on unnecessary stays could be used to support care at home and contribute to reducing Devon's overspend. In northern Devon, changes have been made to put in place better care by moving the money and staff from delivering care in a bed to care at home, and the experience there demonstrates how this can be done safely. In northern Devon, where more people are now being treated in their homes, the number of beds needed in community hospitals has fallen from 74 to 32. The level of community beds in eastern Devon in relation to the size of the population is double that of anywhere else in Devon. Given the number of people occupying beds who could be cared for at home, it makes sense to learn from northern Devon and elsewhere in the country to make similar changes in eastern Devon to deliver more care at home and reduce the number of community beds. Providing safe, high-quality care means making it consistent, at home where possible, using staff and money available effectively for your future care. Consider the national picture. Our plans aren't being developed in isolation, and we've made sure that they align with what's happening in neighbouring areas and across the country. Nationally, the NHS has a 5-year plan, launched in 2014, called the 5-Year Forward View. This sets out the direction for the NHS over the next 5 years, and areas to focus attention for change to deliver the objectives set by the government for the NHS. The 5-Year Forward View includes important themes such as prevention, care outside hospital, and integration of care, as well as the necessity for change. This national plan describes the importance of giving people greater control of their own care, breaking down barriers between care delivered across different parts of the system, and integrating care. It emphasizes the funding pressures and the need to address demand, efficiency, and finances, whilst engaging patients and communities. This aligns closely with our plans. The New Devon Success Regime is a national initiative locally led, which has been established to help create the right conditions for high-quality health and social care to develop in New Devon. Its aim is to secure improvement by introducing new care models where appropriate, developing leadership capacity and capability across the health and care system, and ensuring collaborative working. These improvements are best achieved by involving doctors, nurses, other health and social care staff, and members of the community. The hard copy of this document now has a graph showing the number of people who were in hospital beds who could have been cared for elsewhere during an audit in New Devon in October 2015. In acute care, for the North locality, there were 87 people fit to leave and 127 not fit to leave, giving 41% fit for discharge. In the East, 218 fit to leave, 392 not fit to leave, giving 36% fit for discharge. And in the West, 201 fit to leave, 554 not, so 27% were fit for discharge. In community care, for the North, there were 14 people fit to leave and 30 not fit, so 32% fit for discharge. In the East, 79 were fit to leave against 89 not fit for leave, 47% then fit for discharge, and in the West, 13 people fit to leave and 14 people not fit to leave, giving 48% fit for discharge, although this audit didn't cover the 60 community beds at Mount Gould. A lack of access to healthcare services at home or in the community was a key factor keeping patients who were fit for discharge in hospital settings. There is a graphic illustrating this, showing how in 2015, 254 patients needed basic essential care, 145 needed further occupational therapy, 135 needed further physiotherapy, 128 needed active nursing care, and 145 needed overnight care or support. There are then graphics to illustrate how many more people can be cared for in their own home compared with in a community hospital for the same cost. It illustrates that a 16-bedded community hospital unit costs £75,000 a month to staff for nursing. In 1 month, a unit like this cares for around 21 people. For that £75,000, the same level of care can be offered to clinically assessed patients in their homes by 12 nurses, 8 therapists, and 7 support workers, plus some night sits. And in 1 month, this could care for around 82 people. This is based on a daily nursing cost of £174 per bed in Eastern Devon, as referenced in the PCBC Finance Appendix. It gives an annual nursing cost of £914,000 for a 16-bed site, which we've rounded down to £900,000 or £75,000 a month. Section 3. What we've improved so far. Over the past 3 years, we have extensively engaged with local stakeholders about the changes needed to deliver high-quality, affordable healthcare. In 2014, we published and consulted on the TCS Strategic Framework. TCS stands for Transforming Community Services. This set out 6 strategic priorities for services: to help people to stay well, integrate care, personalise support, coordinate pathways, think carer, think family, and home as the first choice. The priorities set out in the TCS Strategic Framework were consulted on, and the first phase of service changes have already been made towards achieving these strategic priorities. This includes confirming future arrangements for who will run integrated services in all 3 areas or localities. Across New Devon at any one time, thousands are receiving care in their own homes from teams of highly skilled social care, therapy and nursing professionals. 10 years ago, many of these people would have been admitted to hospital. It's clear that this model is the right way to care for the growing number of patients with more complex health needs requiring our care in the future. The Northern Devon locality has made the most progress so far in developing the new model of care. Performance against national targets is better in Northern Devon than in other parts of Devon, and in particular, the traditional winter pressures experienced across the country didn't have the same impact in Northern Devon following the changes introduced ahead of winter 2015. These include a single point of contact for GPs, carers, patients and wider health and social care, which navigates the system to get the right support in place, and a rapid response capability to quickly respond to patients whose health is deteriorating. This proactive support has been shown to enable people to remain in their own homes when it's safe to do so. There's been closer working with the voluntary sector and mental health teams, and more integration between hospitals, community services and GPs. This has meant that patients are able to leave hospital more quickly. The enhanced community teams are able to offer patients support to avoid hospital admissions. With rapid response capability in place, the majority of people receive a visit from a multidisciplinary team within 2 hours. This support also avoids hospital admissions. We've reduced the number of assessments needed so people don't have to tell their story multiple times. With more people treated in their homes, we've halved the number of community hospital beds across Northern Devon and removed beds entirely from Torrington, Ilfracombe and Bideford. The experience of patients receiving care and support in their own homes is regularly audited using the Friends and Family test. Every month, patients across Northern and Eastern Devon report consistently high levels of satisfaction with the service they receive, between 95 and 100%. Following the introduction of the model of care in Northern Devon, the Trust operated with 47 fewer beds last year compared to the winter of 2014-2015, with 22 in acute and 25 in community. It was able to do this despite winter pressures, because people got the right care first time at home and in the community, so were able to avoid being admitted to hospital. Because of the focus on proactive and out-of-hospital services over winter, the acute and community services were resilient in the face of increased demand, which was in contrast to the experiences of prolonged escalation and red alerts across the rest of Devon. This model of care has been focused on providing services in the right place at the right time to the right standard. The Western Devon locality has made considerable progress in bringing care together with the local authority in Plymouth, so people have more coordinated care and support than was previously possible. New services based on a new model of urgent care have begun, which are reducing the number of people attending and being admitted to Derriford Hospital and the length of time they have to stay. The Robin Community Assessment Hub is a new service in the community at Mount Gould, where 10 people a day can be assessed, treated and returned home quickly. Acute Care at Home is a new service helping people to remain at home by offering a broader range of treatments, such as intravenous antibiotics. Discharge to Assess is a new service aiming to return people to their own bed with a package of intensive short-term support available to allow a full assessment of long-term need to be undertaken away from the hospital. And national best practice to hospital-based process known as the SAFER bundle is being implemented in Derriford Hospital with support from the National Emergency Care Improvement Programme team. In the Eastern Devon locality, the first phase of the TCS strategy was implemented in 2014-2015, and we were clear in our commissioning intentions that we would continue pursuing an out-of-hospital model of care and further bed reductions. Whilst we have made really good progress in implementing the community model of care, not everyone in the area currently has consistent access to these services, and we need to ensure more people are helped to live independently in their own homes. In Eastern Devon, some consolidation of community hospital beds has taken place, with the closure of beds in Axminster, Budleigh, Crediton, Moreton Hampstead and Ottery St Mary. There have been developments in different parts of Eastern Devon. Hospital at Home is an innovative service which provides health and social care support in Exmouth, Budleigh Salterton and Woodbury. The service was launched in 2011 and sees nurses, physiotherapists, occupational therapists and social care workers visit people in their own homes. It helps patients stay at home during their treatment and remain independent, whilst receiving similar care to that usually given on a conventional hospital ward. There's a single point of contact for GPs, one phone number to ensure a rapid response for people needing health and social care services, in place for people in Axminster, Seaton, Honiton, Ottery and Sidmouth. Integrated Care in Exeter delivers high-quality, cost-effective, sustainable health and social care services. It brings together Devon County Council, Exeter City Council, Devon Partnership NHS Trust, Royal Devon and Exeter NHS Foundation Trust, and Northern Devon Healthcare Trust and Age UK to promote independence for adults with complex needs. And from the 1st of October 2016, acute and community services within Eastern Devon are provided by Royal Devon and Exeter NHS Foundation Trust. This will mean closer working between acute and community services and improved partnership working with social care to implement a new model of care. The key theme running through all these approaches in Devon is how each locality is responding to the changing needs and expectations of the public. Patients and the public have told us they want us to put the services in place that prevent unnecessary admissions to hospital, and that hospital admissions, when they are required, should be for the shortest time possible, based on clinical need. Patients should be discharged home as soon as it's safe for them to be there. The majority of patients go straight home after hospital, but where support is required, it's really important that the skills and expertise are in place to help people regain their health and independence in their own homes. Across New Devon, patients are already being cared for in their own homes by health and social care teams, working well together to meet their needs. But the model is inconsistent. We've seen compelling evidence from Northern Devon of how patients can benefit from a consistent and resilient model of care, as proposed by this consultation. Northern Devon has gone the furthest in showing how enhancing the community model means fewer acute and community beds are needed. We want to see a consistent, high-quality, common standard of care available to everyone in New Devon. Section 4. What we want to do next. Your future care. Over the last 12 months, local clinicians have been further developing the model of care for health services, focusing on patients who are likely to benefit the most. These are frail and elderly people, people with dementia, and people with long-term conditions affecting both their physical and mental health. In the short term, this is about doing the same better. Over time, the model will evolve with greater focus on prevention, population health and well-being. The aim is to join up care more effectively, so people aren't being sent to hospital just because services aren't available to look after them at home. For frail and elderly people, a prolonged stay in hospital can cause harm, increase risk of exposure to infection, and reduce ability to live independently at home. People have told us they would prefer to be in their own homes. While people do sometimes need treatment in hospital, it's essential that they are then able to go home as soon as they're well enough, and it's safe for them to do so. There is a real opportunity to get services right. Local clinicians want to deliver better care as early as possible, and have been learning from some successful schemes locally and nationally. Over 80 clinicians and social care professionals have worked together over the summer to shape an integrated model to transform the care of people who are frail and elderly, building on existing services to deliver truly joined-up care. 3 interventions have been agreed to deliver key aspects of the new care model. 1. Comprehensive assessment. Identify people who are frail or pre-frail and therefore at risk of admission to hospital. Put a care plan in place, owned by the individual, that outlines potential avenues for escalating care when it's required. 2. A single point of access. One phone number that will make getting additional support when it's needed, urgently, as easy as possible. It will be connected to a comprehensive rapid response service. And 3. The comprehensive rapid response service for care at home. This will help people to remain at home with support rather than being admitted to hospital, and where hospital admission is unavoidable, it will provide the additional support at home that makes it safe to leave hospital. This will include health and social care workers delivering rehabilitation alongside traditional care. So, comprehensive assessment identifies people who are frail or becoming frail and more likely to be admitted to hospital. It puts plans in place that help people to be supported and remain well at home. Assessors act as community connectors to support resilient communities. A single point of access makes organising care at home as easy as care in hospital, around the clock. Referral can be made by any care service, with a clinical conversation based on patient need, and a home-based first responder service available within 2 hours to help support people to stay at home. And rapid response, a multidisciplinary team responding to the needs of people at home and in residential and nursing homes. An initial assessment of need is undertaken and a package of care at home applied. The rapid response team has access to additional capability and input, including through the acute sector. We now describe these 3 interventions in more detail, starting with comprehensive assessment. The aim of assessment is to identify people who are frail or becoming frail and ensure there is an agreed plan in place to support them if their health deteriorates. Assessment and planning are completed by trained staff who may or may not be clinical, recognizing that non-clinicians may obtain a more accurate picture of need. Assessors will coordinate available sources of formal and more informal information, such as health records and discussion with carers and families, and work with people to produce the plan. In addition, they would help connect people with voluntary groups and work with social prescribing to ensure people are supported to remain well and retain their independence. Single point of access means a single telephone number which can be called by a health professional, patient or carer when faced with the need to access advice and services quickly. The single point of access is designed to make access to care at home as easy as care in a hospital, available 24/7. Referrals can be made by any care service, including but not limited to domiciliary care teams, community nurses, GPs, paramedics, mental health teams, care homes and hospital services such as emergency departments, rapid discharge teams and elderly medicine, etc. The aim is to identify what a patient needs to keep them safe and at home as an alternative to hospital. Referrals are received by a nurse, therapist or doctor with the right knowledge and skills to help put in place the services the patient needs. They have access to the comprehensive assessment record, so they're fully aware of the patient's circumstances and health. It's important to emphasize 2 things that this isn't. It isn't an ambulance. If there's urgent need for care to be provided and for transport to hospital, then an ambulance will still be called. Equally, it's much more than a general advice line for the general public. This service determines the most appropriate first responder for the patient and ensures this is timely within 2 hours of referral. Once referral is made, they will assume responsibility for liaison with the patient and/or family. And rapid response care at home. If the person has an immediate health need, the rapid response multidisciplinary team will visit the patient within 2 hours in their own home. The team includes community nursing, therapists, health and care assistants, access to medical input, staff who can prescribe and give drugs and medicines, mental health workers, administration support, and domiciliary care workers. While most care will be delivered in patients' homes, the rapid response team will also support patients in residential and care homes. The team undertakes an initial assessment of need, then institutes a package of care at home, which can include support from a range of nursing, therapies, domiciliary support, and night sitting. Where care needs exceed the capability of the team, they will escalate directly to the most appropriate level of care, including the acute sector. The team will ensure the patient's lead medical carer, usually their GP, is kept informed of progress, but the responsibility for care, including escalation to hospital-based services as required, will remain with the team for up to 72 hours. Care may be decreased sooner than 72 hours if the patient no longer needs it. The team will work alongside existing care providers to coordinate their input. Where a package of care is already in place, the team will support and build on this rather than make new care arrangements, so as to maintain continuity as far as possible. The same team supports patients when they're discharged from hospital, so this can happen as soon as is clinically safe, accessed via the single point of contact. This will result in a managed transition between care settings. Home care workers, whether delivering health, personal or domiciliary care, will work with patients to achieve specific rehabilitation and reablement goals. We want to give greater clarity and confidence to patients and professionals that care will be readily accessible, resilient, and organized around the needs of the community served. So where will care be provided in future? The 3 interventions being put in place can, from a patient point of view, be delivered at home, either in person from visiting health and care staff, or by phone, or other electronic methods where practical and useful. Assessments will usually be carried out at a local centre or at home. The single point of access will be by telephone, and so from home, but could also be from other places such as a GP practice. Rapid response will be delivered at home, or in a care or residential home if that's where the patient is. These are the 3 foundation stones of our community model and create the infrastructure to move care out of hospital and into patient homes. By providing responsive, timely and multidisciplinary services in the community and the patient's home, we can avoid hospital admissions. And in hospital, we can avoid delays to discharge by ensuring a plan for discharge is made at the point of admission to hospital, and patients get the therapy they need to maintain mobility during their inpatient stay. And enhancing care coordination to facilitate transitions of care both into and out of hospital, including the ability to commit a care package within 2 hours to support discharge. It's primarily through these interventions that clinicians believe we can have a much greater beneficial impact on people's lives. The changes outlined here are the first step towards delivering more services that are joined up and provided in or near to the places people live. In modern-day healthcare, hospital is no longer the first choice for care. Instead, services should focus on supporting people to stay as well as possible for as long as possible, helping them to remain independent in their own communities. In the future, we see more support and care will be provided in people's homes, either through home visits, regular checks over the phone or other technology, including telemonitoring and telecare. Where it's not practical to deliver care at home, more care will be provided in the community, for example through face-to-face consultation or group therapy. Only where there are good clinical reasons will people travel to hospital for treatment, reducing unnecessary and sometimes physically painful or costly trips. The Transforming Community Services program put forward the idea of health and well-being hubs to support this model. A hub is a focal point for modern-day integrated care. It could be based in an NHS or a public service building, such as a hospital or general practice, or an alternative local building. A hub could also be a network of professionals and communities working together on place-based improvements. The services offered could be virtual. They may vary in size and function depending on local need, and range from bases for multidisciplinary teams to one-stop centres for GP services, diagnostics and outpatient appointments. The development of these is already underway. Importantly, hubs are designed with and by communities. Locally, much of the early work has been building-focused, but as thinking develops, the opportunities of place-based networked hubs will also be taken into account. Hubs will be a focus for integrated care and community teams. At this stage, we're not being prescriptive about what hubs should look like. So what will our proposals mean for people receiving care and their families and carers? John and Mary are similar to our typical users of health and care services in New Devon. Although there's a rich mix of different types of communities across our area, we know that the vast majority of patients whose care will be transformed by the integrated model fit the profiles of John and Mary given now. We've therefore used these fictional people to explain how local services affect them now and how our proposals for change would affect them in the future. And although they are fictional for the purposes of this document, the information we've used to create John and Mary is very firmly based on the wealth of evidence we have about our patients in New Devon. Starting with John. John is 88 and cares for his wife. He has a urinary infection, which, because he's elderly, starts to affect his balance. As a result, he falls at home. An ambulance is called, and he's taken to the Royal Devon and Exeter Hospital. Now, John stays in hospital for a number of days. He develops a blood clot in his leg, which then needs treating. The length of stay in hospital means that he's become weaker and can no longer move around easily, for example, using stairs. It also means that family need to come and help look after his wife while he's away. Once John gets better, doctors and nurses need to organise what help and equipment he and his wife will need when he goes home. So he's moved from the acute hospital bed, which is needed by more seriously ill patients, to a community hospital bed, while this care at home is organised for him. In the future, John's community nurse has assessed him as frail and noted his home circumstances on his health record. As part of the care plan developed with him, John has been connected up with a local carer support network, which is in regular contact with him and supports him as the sole carer for his wife. Following his fall, the ambulance paramedic who's called out to see him contacts the Rapid Response Care at Home service and John's GP. The Care at Home service sends a senior nurse to John's home and recognises that he has a serious urinary infection. If necessary, a GP will visit him. Arrangements are made for him to be seen in hospital, and care is put in place for his wife, including a night sitter in case John can't return home. John needs hospital treatment for his infection. After 24 hours, he no longer needs to be in hospital, so the ward liaises with the Care at Home service, which arranges some short-term care for John and his wife to help with daily activities such as getting washed and dressed. They also organise additional equipment for the home, such as handrails, to reduce the risk of further falls. John is able to return home that day. The Care at Home team continues to care for him at home for the next 3 days with regular nursing visits, physiotherapy and occupational therapy. John makes a full recovery, and the care and support is reduced back to the same level as before. Next, Mary. Mary is 82 and lives alone. She's been increasingly forgetful and has been diagnosed with dementia, but is managing well with some help from family and social care support. Now, following a chest infection, Mary is admitted to the Royal Devon and Exeter Hospital. During her stay, she becomes very confused because of the new environment she's in, and it's clear to doctors and her concerned family that her dementia has become worse as a result. The infection has made her more unsteady on her feet, and she has 2 minor falls whilst on the ward. When she's recovered from the chest infection, she's moved to a community hospital to see if she improves. If not, she'll need full-time care, potentially in a care home. In the future, Mary has been identified by her GP as being at risk of emergency admission to hospital, and there's a clear plan in place to avoid and manage events that could lead to that. She's regularly visited by care workers, as well as her family, who help her with bathing and getting dressed. Her care worker calls her GP when she sees that she's frequently coughing and seems short of breath. The GP visits and gives Mary some antibiotics to help her chest infection. He also contacts the Care at Home team via the single point of access to ask for additional support. They all know it's important for Mary to remain at home, as she could get very confused if moved to a new environment. So, the team coordinates physiotherapy twice a day, more regular nursing visits, and someone to stay with Mary overnight to keep her safe at home. The chest infection is causing Mary to be more confused than usual, but with the additional support, this is manageable. Each member of the team has additional skills in caring for patients with dementia, as well as access to expert advice if they need it, so they're able to give Mary the care she needs. After 3 days of antibiotics, Mary's chest is much better. Mary's care plan is reviewed with her, and the level of ongoing support she needs is altered. Staff are our greatest asset, and they are dedicated to delivering high-quality care. Whatever their role, they need to have the right skills, experience, and tools. Changes to how and where care is delivered will inevitably mean staff will need to work in different ways, developing new skills and competencies, providing care potentially in different places. Staff will work together in an integrated way, and the focus will be on caring for people in their own homes safely. The reduction in community hospital beds will mean that the staff who currently work on the wards will transfer to join the community health and social care teams in their locality. There'll be no need for any compulsory redundancies associated with these proposals. We'll be able to redeploy affected staff within different settings or neighbouring organisations. In particular, there will be roles to deliver care in people's homes as part of the new services, as well as filling vacancies and reducing the reliance on temporary staff. From our experience of successfully managing this transition in communities where services have already changed, our providers will offer staff excellent training and support to undertake the new role. Experience in Northern Devon indicates implementing the new model of care hasn't created additional work for our already hard-pressed primary care teams. Further work will be undertaken to confirm this is the case across the new Devon area, and as implementation plans are developed, our primary care workforce will be an important element. A detailed workforce strategy will be developed to support the further implementation of the new model of care. This will include a more detailed analysis of the staff, roles, skills, competencies and training required. This strategy will form part of the final decision-making business case. We recognise that the successful implementation of the new model of care won't shift pressure from one point in the system to another. We'll work to ensure that existing pressures and new demands on existing primary and community-based workforce through the new model of care are mitigated by actively redeploying workforce from bedded care to the new model of care delivery. An estate strategy is being developed to make sure best use is being made of the buildings that currently support delivery of primary, community, mental health, acute and social care. When completed, it will set out in detail the future use of the buildings required to support the care delivery models. This will include how existing buildings will be used to support the model of care described, including hubs and other care services. Some of the hospitals from which inpatient beds could be removed would continue to be local health and social care hubs, housing integrated teams providing enhanced home and outpatient care, and other services such as therapies. We won't be making any decisions on the future of buildings within the new Devon estate as part of your future care consultation. Members of the public will have the opportunity to comment on the estate strategy at a later date. Section 5. What service changes are needed? Implementing the new model of care across New Devon will bring about improved care within home and community settings with less need for community hospital beds. This will improve health outcomes for patients. Across Devon, we have an unequal distribution of community hospital beds. Our clinical cabinet of doctors, nurses and other professionals has reviewed this data, which shows that Eastern Devon has much higher numbers of beds per person compared to Western or Northern Devon, even after the older population is taken into account. And for patients in those beds, almost half, 47%, could go home if services were available in the community. If the new model was implemented and working well with patients only hospitalised for as long as necessary, then evidence and the experience in Northern Devon suggests that the eastern locality would need 72 beds at this stage, compared to the current number, 143. The next sections of this consultation document explore how to determine the best locations for 72 community beds in Eastern Devon to ensure we release the resources to enhance the community health and care teams. There are 7 community hospitals in Eastern Devon that have community beds. These community hospitals also provide a range of day services, including minor injury units, X-ray, day case units, maternity services, therapies, outpatients, co-located primary care, endoscopies, mental health services, and services provided by the voluntary sector. Tiverton has 32 beds. Honiton has 18, as does Seaton, Sidmouth, and Exmouth. Exeter has 20, Oakhampton has 16. On an interim basis, Ottery St Mary is currently providing stroke unit care and 3 community inpatient beds. This is illustrated by a map in the hard copy. Community hospitals provide a range of services as follows. Axminster provides therapies, outpatients, X-rays, surgical day care, and endoscopy. Seaton, therapies and outpatients. Sidmouth, therapies, outpatients, X-ray, and surgical day case. Honiton, midwife-led birth units, minor injuries unit, therapies, outpatients, X-ray, and GP collocated primary care. Ottery St Mary, therapies, outpatients, and X-ray. Exmouth, minor injuries unit, therapies, outpatients, X-ray, surgical day case, and GP collocated primary care. Exeter, therapies and outpatients. Crediton, therapies and outpatients. Tiverton, midwife-led birth units, minor injuries unit, therapies, outpatients, X-ray, surgical day case, GP collocated primary care and endoscopy. Oakhampton, midwife-led birth units, therapies, outpatients and X-ray, and Morton Hampstead, therapies and outpatients. Note that Budleigh Salterton Hospital is temporarily closed. During the closure, the majority of outpatient clinics and services have switched to Exmouth Hospital. Other services have moved to other nearby venues. Applying the long list criteria. To reduce the options to a manageable number, we agreed the following principles. Firstly, no new build due to cost and timescales. Clinicians have recommended that only the existing community hospital sites should be considered for future location of community hospital beds. New sites are not suitable due to the timescale required to find and develop any site. Equally, clinicians and finance teams have recommended that there should be no new building on existing community hospital sites, given the timescales and costs, and given the existence of current community hospitals whose space isn't currently being fully utilised. Next, ensure changes already consulted on are implemented. There was a consultation on the location of community hospital beds in Eastern Devon in 2014-2015. The decision from that consultation was that community hospital beds would be removed in Axminster, Ottery St Mary and Crediton. This decision has already been taken and is therefore not affected by this current consultation. Next, make best use of PFI and LIFT services. PFI stands for Private Finance Initiative, LIFT stands for Local Improvement Finance Trust. PFI is a scheme for funding new hospital buildings where the health service enters into long-term arrangements to rent back the property from private companies who have borrowed money in advance to finance the initial capital costs of building the facilities. Under PFI and LIFT, the local health service has entered into long-term arrangements to rent back property from private organisations who have borrowed the upfront costs to build the premises. The high costs of exiting these contracts and the generally high quality of the buildings mean it's sensible to make best use of PFI and LIFT premises. There is one hospital in Eastern Devon that fits all of the criteria and is PFI funded. It's Tiverton Hospital, built in 2004 with a contract that runs until 2034 and which would cost approximately £35 million to exit. Clinicians and finance leads have therefore recommended that 32 beds at Tiverton should continue to be used in all options as best use of this space within this period. Therefore, 32 of the 72 beds required will be at Tiverton in all options. And meet agreed minimum size of unit. Safer staffing guidance suggests that the minimum number of beds per unit should be 16. This is the most effective and safe nurse-to-patient ratio and avoids situations where registered nurses on the wards worked on their own without any professional support or supervision, what's called lone working. Clinicians and finance leads reviewed the evidence and agreed that the minimum unit size of 16, with additional beds in multiples of 8, was required to make sure there are enough staff and to get the best value for money. Therefore, the remaining 40 beds required will be provided in one unit of 16 and one unit of 24. No unit except Tiverton can provide more than 24 beds without new building work. Some community hospitals only have space for a 16-bed unit without new build and are therefore not being considered as a 24-bed unit. This results in 15 possible options for the location of community hospital beds in Eastern Devon, as follows. Note that each of the 15 options has Tiverton as the 32-bed unit. For the 24-bed and 16-bed units, as follows: Option 1, 24 Seaton, 16 Sidmouth. Option 2, 24 Seaton, 16 Honiton. Option 3, 24 Seaton, 16 Exmouth. Option 4, 24 Seaton, 16 Exeter. Option 5, 24 Seaton, 16 Oakhampton. Option 6, 24 Exmouth, 16 Sidmouth. Option 7, 24 Exmouth, 16 Honiton. Option 8, 24 Exmouth, 16 Seaton. Option 9, 24 Exmouth, 16 Exeter. Option 10, 24 Exmouth, 16 Oakhampton. Option 11, 24 Sidmouth, 16 Exmouth. Option 12, 24 Sidmouth, 16 Honiton. Option 13, 24 Sidmouth, 16 Seaton. Option 14, 24 Sidmouth, 16 Exeter. And Option 15, 24 Sidmouth, 16 Oakhampton. Remember, the 32-bed unit will be Tiverton for all 15 of the options. Remember that beds in East Devon will need to be reduced by 54% to be in line with the rest of New Devon. Clinicians and finance leads then analysed the 15 options further and reduced them to a shortlist for consultation. The evaluation criteria used to do this were built on criteria used in previous public consultations in New Devon, including transforming community services, pathways for the future, and safe and effective care within a budget. The evaluation criteria were as follows. First, quality. Which options would provide the best clinical quality and patient experience? Next, patient access. Which options keep to a minimum any increase in travel time? Next, implementation. Which options can easily be put in place? Building work to reconfigure hospitals would be needed in some of the options. Next, access for carers. Which options keep to a minimum the average travel time for carers, friends and relatives visiting people in community inpatient beds, and what parking space is available? Next, finance. The impact on income and expenditure and capital costs of the service. And ability to support whole system impact. Which options best support the wider system of health and care delivery? There are differences between the options, as some hospitals already have other services being provided from them, and some have greater flexibility for other services to be provided on site. You can find all the detailed information and analysis we use to answer these questions in the pre-consultation business case at newdevonccg.nhs.uk/about-us/your-future-care/102019. Clinicians concluded that the quality and patient access criteria are very important, but don't differentiate between the 15 options. All options provide the same result, and therefore the criteria can't be used to choose between options. Quality in the new care model will improve to the same standard regardless of the option selected. And for patient access, patients will be admitted to community hospitals when they require a community bed. Therefore, patient access is no different between the options. Clinicians and finance leads carefully evaluated the remaining criteria, and a short list of 4 options was reached. Our preferred viable option is option 3. The 3 other viable options are options 4, 11 and 14. The remaining 11 options have been evaluated as being less viable. Remember that for each of the 15 options, Tiverton has 32 beds. Option 1, Seaton 24 and Sidmouth 16. This had the highest evaluation for quality, implementability and finance. Also patient access. It had a low evaluation for whole system impact and the lowest evaluation for access for carers. Option 2, Seaton 24 and Honiton 16, had the highest evaluation for quality, implementability, patient access and finance. It was neutral for access for carers and whole system impact. Option 3, which is our preferred viable option, Seaton 24 and Exmouth 16, had the highest evaluation for quality, implementability, patient access and finance, a high evaluation for whole system impact, and neutral access for carers. Option 4, which is one of the other viable options, has Seaton 24 and Exeter 16, with highest evaluation for quality, implementability, patient access, access for carers and finance, but lowest evaluation for whole system impact. Option 5, Seaton 24 and Oakhampton 16, had highest evaluation for quality, implementability, patient access and finance, low evaluation for whole system impact, and lowest evaluation for access for carers. Option 6, Exmouth 24 and Sidmouth 16, had highest evaluation for quality and patient access, high evaluation for whole system impact, and lowest evaluation for implementability, access for carers and finance. Option 7, Exmouth 24 and Honiton 16, had highest evaluation for quality, patient access and whole system impact, high evaluation for access for carers, but lowest evaluation for implementability and finance. Option 8, Exmouth 24 and Seaton 16, had highest evaluation for quality and patient access, high evaluation for whole system impact, neutral for access for carers, and lowest evaluation for implementability and finance. Option 9, Exmouth 24 and Exeter 16, had highest evaluation for quality, patient access and access for carers, neutral for whole system impact, lowest evaluation for implementability and finance. Option 10, Exmouth 24 and Oakhampton 16, had highest evaluation for quality and patient access, high evaluation for whole system impact, neutral access for carers, and lowest evaluation for implementability and finance. Option 11, another of the viable options, Sidmouth 24 and Exmouth 16, had highest evaluation for quality, implementability, patient access and finance, high evaluation for whole system impact, but lowest evaluation, access for carers. Option 12, Sidmouth 24 and Honiton 16, had highest evaluation for quality, implementability, patient access and finance, neutral for access for carers and whole system impact. Option 13, Sidmouth 24 and Seaton 16, had highest evaluation for quality, implementability, patient access and finance, low for whole system impact, and lowest access for carers. Option 14, the third viable option, Sidmouth 24 and Exeter 16, had highest evaluation for quality, implementability, patient access, access for carers and finance, but lowest for whole system impact. And option 15, Sidmouth 24 and Oakhampton 16, had highest evaluation for quality, implementability, patient access and finance, neutral for access for carers, low evaluation for whole system impact. Remember, the preferred viable option is option 3. The other 3 viable options are options 4, 11 and 14. These are now referred to as option A, with 32 beds at Tiverton, 24 at Seaton and 16 at Exmouth. Option B, 32 beds at Tiverton, 24 at Sidmouth, 16 at Exmouth. Option C, 32 beds at Tiverton, 24 at Seaton and 16 at Exeter. And option D, 32 beds at Tiverton, 24 at Sidmouth and 16 at Exeter. There is a genuine choice about which of these is the best option for New Devon. However, by a small margin, option A is the preferred option, as this combination results in the smallest impact in travel time and has the greatest benefit to the whole acute community pathways of care. In reducing the long list to this short list of options for public consultation, the CCG has and continues to have an open mind on the other options. As a result, we welcome all views and will carefully consider all responses and analyse these against the decision-making criteria. That will include options which are not currently in the consultation document, but that those providing responses suggest should be considered. Honiton and Oakhampton hospitals are current community hospitals not included in the 4 viable options. All 3 long list options that included Honiton scored less highly than the 4 shortlisted options when measured against the evaluation criteria. Honiton Hospital is close to a number of other community hospitals, including Tiverton, Seaton and Sidmouth. Having all the community hospitals very close together would mean some people would have to travel further than in the other options. While there may be an impact for the population living in Oakhampton, we focused on understanding the impact on travel for carers. The impact on carers is mitigated by reducing the number of people needing admission at all, and reducing their length of stay in hospital through better care, including in their own home. If an extended stay in a community hospital bed is needed, Holsworthy and Tavistock are available, as beds serve the Devon population, not just the immediate area. To fill 16 beds requires a catchment of 85,000 people. For Oakhampton, this would mean people travelling from nearly as far as Barnstaple and the outskirts of Exeter, resulting in longer travel times for the rest of the population. The travel time calculations are weighed to the population of the catchment area for individual hospitals, and hence the impact this has is negative. Exmouth and Exeter Whipton hospitals are current community hospitals included in some options but with fewer beds. Exmouth Hospital isn't a 24-bed hospital in any of the shortlisted options, but does appear with 16 beds in 2 of the 4 options in the consultation. Exmouth Hospital currently has 2 wards with 18 and 10 beds respectively. The 18-bed ward is currently open. These wards have separate entrances, their own nurse station and separate ward clerks. The building works to convert Exmouth's 2 current wards to a single 24-bed ward would cost up to £1.2 million and take up to 18 months to complete, leading to temporary disruption to hospital services and delaying our ability to improve care for patients. Options with Exmouth as a 24-bed hospital therefore scored poorly in the implementation criteria, excluding this hospital from the shortlist as a 24-bed site. At Sidmouth Hospital and Seaton Hospital, there are existing wards which can accommodate 24 beds immediately. Whipton Community Hospital currently has 20 beds. They're unable to increase to 24 beds without investment for changes to the building, so 16 beds is the only suitable option for Whipton Community Hospital. Other existing services in community hospitals aren't affected by this consultation. This consultation aims to gather people's views, and we would welcome other options or proposals which show that they can improve local care whilst better meeting the criteria given. We will make sure that information is available so that anyone who is interested in making proposals is able to do so, and we will fully and fairly consider any further options. We know from the changes we've made already under Transforming Community Services and other programs that this can be done, so we can provide high-quality, affordable care for local people. New Devon health and social care organisations are facing a financial shortfall in 2015-2016 of £122 million, rising, if nothing changes, to £384 million in 2020-2021. By applying the new model of care, we will not only be able to care for people better in their own homes, but we will also plan to increase spending on community services by £1.4 to £1.9 million. We forecast the changes will save between £2.8 and £5.6 million a year after the investment in additional community services has been made. And while this may seem relatively modest, it forms the key to unlocking our wider vision that will transform the way we currently provide care and enables us to say with confidence that the model we're describing will be available no matter where people live in Devon. This will move us from the reliance on bed-based care to an improved community-based service. Overall, our programme of change is forecast to achieve net savings of between £87.5 and £100 million a year. This work will support the next phase of our programme of change as we develop plans to ensure our acute and specialist services are clinically and financially sustainable. A timetable will follow, and this programme of work will commence in October. The CCG will meet all statutory obligations when undertaking this element of the change programme. The CCG has two statutory duties, one under the NHS Act 2006, the other under the Equality Act 2010. Under the Equality Act, a public authority and a person exercising public function is subject to the public sector equality duty. To inform our proposals, an equalities and inequalities analysis was conducted to ensure that appropriate consideration has been given to the impact of the options under consideration on protected characteristics and protected groups within the context of the public sector equality duty. It was determined that none of the evidence considered at this point identified differential or disproportionate impact on people or groups with protected characteristics in the scope of the assessment. This means that for all 15 options under consideration, none were identified as discriminating against vulnerable populations. If an agreed option for Eastern Community Bed reconfiguration is decided following consultation, the impact of the agreed option on protected characteristics or groups will be further tracked pre- and post-implementation before wider change is decided on and rolled out across New Devon. Section 6. Safe and effective implementation. The safety of patients and staff is our top priority as our plans are implemented. As a clinical commissioning group, we wouldn't support these plans if we didn't believe they'll provide a better, higher quality service for local people. Following consultation, we will review all of the feedback to inform our final decision. Once the decision is made, implementation of the changes will start as soon as possible, delivering benefits in 2017-2018. We know that local people will want to be reassured that our proposals will have a positive impact on local communities and on the people living in them. Local clinicians have therefore developed a series of tests to make sure that changes to community services are safe and reliable when implemented. They build on themes identified in the Transforming Community Services programme, including similar tests designed in Northern Devon. These tests will ensure that local clinicians have confidence in safe implementation of the new model of care. They need to be passed before any changes are made. A system for monitoring and measuring the impact of our proposals is also being put in place to help us make sure that the benefits are delivered as expected. In total, over 30 questions will need to be answered during the 3 phases, before, during, and after implementation. To provide an illustration, questions before implementation include: is there a robust operational managerial model and leadership to support the implementation? Is there an agreed rollout plan for implementation which has due regard to the operational issues of managing change? And have the training needs of people undertaking new roles been identified, including ensuring they're able to meet the needs of patients with dementia? The main benefits from the proposed changes to the model of care will be improvements in clinical outcomes for patients, patient and carer experience, the way staff work, and local financial pressures due to money being saved. Further detailed information on implementation and benefits can be found in our pre-consultation business case, available on our website at new-cc.nhs.uk/about-us/your-future-care/102019. Section 7. Your Future Care, the Next Steps. We'd like your views on the proposed changes set out here, which build on changes that have already started being put in place in parts of New Devon as a result of previous consultations. Once we've gathered these and properly and thoroughly considered them, we will report back in public on the outcome of this consultation prior to any implementation. Devon County Council and Plymouth City Council's Overview and Scrutiny Committees will closely check our consultation process and will be consulted on our proposals. A final business case will be produced, which will be discussed by our governing body, so that we can make a final decision. We expect that decision to be taken early in 2017. New Devon CCG will drive the commissioning process required to implement the changes through contracts and benefits-focused performance management. Section 8. Your Views. We're keen to continue the discussion with patients, the public, and those who may be affected by the proposed changes to health services in the area. There is a recognized process for doing this, as by law the NHS has to consult patients and the public on any major change to local health services. Government guidance on this says: 1. Consultations should be clear and concise. 2. Consultations should have a purpose. 3. Consultations should be informative. 4. Consultations are only part of a process of engagement. 5. Consultations should last for a proportionate amount of time. 6. Consultations should be targeted. 7. Consultations should take account of the groups being consulted. 8. Consultations should be agreed before publication. 9. Consultation should facilitate scrutiny. And 10. Responses to consultations should be published in a timely fashion. Through a large-scale consultation running for 13 weeks from the 7th of October 2016 to the 6th of January 2017, we are asking people for their opinions on our proposals, making sure we involve patients and the public widely. There will be events, meetings, focus groups and presentations, including with those who are sometimes referred to as hard-to-reach groups. The aim is to discuss, to listen, and to receive views from as many people as possible. The response form offers you the opportunity to express your views on some specific questions we would like answers to, as well as anything else you want to say. Section 9. Glossary. A&E stands for Accident and Emergency, a service available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, where people receive treatment for medical and surgical emergencies that are likely to need admission to hospital. This includes severe pneumonia, diabetic coma, bleeding from the gut, complicated fractures that need surgery, and other serious illnesses. Acute care. This refers to short-term treatment, usually in a hospital, for patients with any kind of serious or significant illness or injury, which needs the specialist intervention of senior consultants, specialist nurses, or diagnostics. Acute Trust. NHS acute trusts manage hospitals. Some are regional or national centres for specialist care, Others are attached to universities and help to train health professionals. Some acute trusts also provide community services. CCG stands for Clinical Commissioning Group. These are the health commissioning organisations led by GPs, which represent a group of GP practices in a certain area. They are responsible for commissioning health and care services. Care at home means medical care as opposed to domiciliary or personal care provided at home. Care outside hospital means care that takes place outside a hospital in a community setting. This could be a patient's home or a community health centre. Case for Change. In February 2016, the Success Regime published the Case for Change for New Devon. This set out the key challenges facing the NHS in New Devon, including health inequalities between different parts of the county, a large and growing financial deficit, and an over-reliance on hospital rather than community-based care. It can be found on the CCG website at newdevon.nhs.uk/about-us/case-for-change/101857. The Clinical Cabinet. The Clinical Cabinet membership includes GPs and other clinicians from CCG member practices, hospital trusts, and representatives from HealthWatch. The Clinical Cabinet provides clinical input and leadership to the development of service change and ensures that there are clinical advocates for proposals in each relevant service area. Co-located means where services or facilities are located together in the same place. Community hospitals provide a range of different services, but don't have the levels or types of staff or equipment to care for people who need immediate access to medical care or other services such as critical care. The services can include medical and nurse-led clinics, some diagnostic tests, minor injuries units, midwife-led birth units, or day case surgeries. Some services are for the local community, while others, such as day case surgeries, may serve a much larger area. Comprehensive assessment means an assessment carried out by a trained member of staff using available information and discussion with the individual so that a plan can be agreed that outlines the type of support likely to be needed if that person becomes ill. The assessment will also help connect the person with the kind of support in their local area that can help keep them well and independent. It will be undertaken with people who have been identified as frail or likely to become frail. CQC stands for Care Quality Commission. This is an organisation funded by the government to check all hospitals in England to make sure they're meeting government standards and to share their findings with the public. Deficit means where spending is greater than income. Endoscopy is a procedure that helps clinicians look inside the human body. Equalities means things or outcomes that are the same. FT stands for Foundation Trust. NHS Foundation Trusts are not-for-profit corporations. They're part of the NHS, yet they have greater freedom to decide their own plans and the way services are run. Foundation Trusts have members and a council of governors. Frail or frailty refers to a health condition related to the aging process in which multiple body systems gradually lose their inbuilt reserves. Around 10% of people aged over 65 have frailty, rising to between a quarter and a half of those aged over 85. Older people living with frailty are at risk of adverse outcomes, such as dramatic changes in their physical and mental well-being after an apparently minor event which challenges their health, such as an infection or new medication. The governing body is made up of GPs, clinicians, managers and lay members to ensure the CCG commissions the highest quality services within budget. HealthWatch refers to organisations whose role is to make sure patients are involved in developing and changing NHS services and to provide support to local people. There is a National Health Watch, which oversees the local Health Watch and provides advice as an independent part of the CQC. HWB stands for Health and Wellbeing Boards. These are local authority bodies whose aim is to encourage joint working between the NHS and local councils across health and social care. Hub refers to a setting for care outside hospital adapted from existing community sites to provide other services locally, serving as a support hub to local healthcare teams, not necessarily based on a particular building or site. The services offered could be virtual, may vary in size and function depending on local need, and range from bases for multidisciplinary teams to one-stop centres for GP services, diagnostics and outpatient appointments. Inequalities refers to differences, often used in relation to access to services. An inpatient is a patient who is admitted to a hospital, usually for 24 hours, for treatment or an operation. LIFT stands for Local Improvement Finance Trust. NHS LIFT was a vehicle for improving and developing frontline primary and community care facilities. It allowed the NHS primary care trusts to invest in new premises in new locations, not merely reproduce existing types of service. Maternity means relating to pregnancy, childbirth, and immediately following childbirth. New Devon is the Northern, Eastern and Western Devon Clinical Commissioning Group. NHS stands for National Health Service. OSC stands for Overview and Scrutiny Committee, HOSC stands for Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and JHOSC stands for Joint Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee. This is the committee of the relevant local authority or group of local authorities made up of local councillors who are responsible for monitoring and, if necessary, challenging programmes such as this. Parts of consultation, such as the length of the consultation period, have to be agreed by them. An outpatient is a patient who attends an appointment to receive treatment without needing actually to be admitted to hospital, unlike an inpatient. Outpatient care can be provided by hospitals, GPs and community providers, and is often used to follow up after treatment or to assess a further treatment. Outpatients and diagnostics refers to people who need specialist advice or investigation in hospital. This includes support for insulin-dependent diabetics or neurological conditions such as multiple sclerosis. It also includes minor surgery, ECGs, X-rays, ultrasounds, and CT and MRI scans. PPEC stands for Patient and Public Engagement Committee, a group whose role is to make sure the interests of patients and the public are represented in the NHS. Members usually include representatives of local hospital patient groups, local clinical commissioning groups and NHS staff. Primary care means services which are the main or first point of contact for the patient, provided by GPs, community providers and so on. PFI stands for Private Finance Initiative, a scheme for funding new hospital buildings, where the health service enters into long-term arrangements to rent back the property from private companies who have borrowed money in advance to finance the initial capital cost of building the facility. Single point of access or contact refers to a single telephone number or point of communication which helps to organise services for patients. Success regime. With long-term difficulties in recruiting permanently to key clinical posts, a history of financial challenges and the need to improve the quality of services across the area, the New Devon area has been selected nationally, along with Essex and West, North and East Cumbria, to take part in the regime. Organisations working in partnership under the New Devon Success Regime banner include the 5 local NHS organisations and the 2 top-tier local authorities. Telemonitoring or telecare refers to monitoring health using technology from a distance. TCS stands for Transforming Community Services. This is New Devon CCG's plan to provide preventative and personalised support alongside urgent and specialist care in local communities. and Your Future Care is the term used to refer to the consultation for New Devon's success regime. That completes this information.